The Battle Recharge 3-day tour in northern New South Wales. I'm Scott McGrory, joined by Robbie Hucker. Good to know that, Robbie, you're on board. You've done your 4 or 5 hour training ride this morning. Now we can settle in and watch the final 2 criteriums for the women and the men.
Yeah, it's looking forward to some great racing here. There's still plenty to race for, both in the men's and the women's, so it should be a good afternoon of racing.
Of course, we did have stage 3 time trial this morning, so Grace Brown took out the time trial convincingly, but there was a little reshuffle in the overall standings between the podium places. Kate McIlroy sits in 2nd place, and now Emily Roper replaces Jess Pratt on the third place in the overall standings after that time trial. Em Roper from the Gold Coast, just up the road, so she put in a fantastic TT to put herself in the mix to finish the tour in 3rd overall, with just this final time trial to come. It's 20 laps for the ladies, and we see just the result of that time trial. Convincing win for Grace Brown. She was the pre-tour favourite, but of course the time trial favourite as well, because she's won time trials in the National Road Series before, but very close between 2nd, 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, Grace Brown has had an excellent tour so far, but there's still plenty to race for, and being a Criterium, you never know what can happen.
Just looking at 4th there, stage 2 winner Brittany Pettersen, a South African now living in Australia. She lost a couple of minutes on the first stage, picked back 2 minutes up on stage 2 and put in a good time trial. She'll be a bit disappointed. She could have been further up in the overall classification, but good to be in 4th. Now, in the overall class, we see Grace Brown convincingly opening up her lead over Kate McIlroy after that time trial. Emily Roper jumps up to 3rd, just replacing Jessica Pratt. Pratt needs a little bit more work perhaps on a TT, so she sits now in 4th. And then the usual suspects, Taryn Heather, Lucy Betchell, Emily Watts, the riders that we see all the time in the National Road Series, always up there or thereabouts. So Grace Brown in the overall race lead as we go into this final criterium in Murwillumbah, the industrial estate. It's the Stan Brims Criterium course, and it's a 1.4 kilometre circuit. They're just now underway. We've just missed the start, but they're out there now on the course. So it's an industrial estate in Murwillumbah, which is about 30 kilometres from Coolangatta, just to give you a reference, in northern New South Wales. It looks like a figure 8. It's basically two square blocks attached together, but they don't cross over, of course, although I would like to see some figure 8 racing maybe in the future. I wouldn't want to do it, but I'd like to commentate on figure 8 racing. It'd be spectacular.
Yeah, it'd certainly make for some interesting racing, but yeah, this is about as close to that as you'll get.
So the opening couple of laps, there are 3 intermediate sprints for 3, 2 and 1 second bonuses, and also points up for grabs as well. And then final second bonuses on the final sprint of 6, 4, 3 and 2 seconds. And that won't matter to Grace Brown and the Holden Gusto team. 1 minute and 18 second lead over Kate McIlroy. Certainly a commanding performance from her. So just has to stay upright now, and you can see really wide roads, so a nice, easy to negotiate criterium course here for stage 4 and the final stage of the Battle Recharge. It's the opening round of the National Road Series for the women. The men, of course, it's the second round for them. They had the Grafton to Inverell back in May. And that was taken out by Nathan Elliott, who seems to cherry-pick the biggest races in Australia. Just goes for the really big ones. Twice winner of the Melbourne to Warrnambool, and now the second biggest race in Australia for one-day classics, the Grafton to Inverell. Not competing here, though, so we'll see what happens with the overall NRS lead for him. That will change, no doubt, at the end of this tour. But for now, it's for the women. First round of the National Road Series for them, the Battle Recharge, formerly known as the Battle on the Border. It's come back as a Battle Recharge. Thanks very much to the New South Wales State Government, Visit New South Wales and the Tweed Shire Council for getting on board and making sure this race that has a 6-year history continues. Jade Colligan it is, sitting on the front. Slightly distorted colour coming through, unfortunately, so it's hard to pick up the colour of the jerseys, but early stages and still nice and bunched together. There is definitely a race for the minor placings. So McIlroy sits at 118, Emily Roper at 123. So it's doable for Emily Roper to try and get over the specialised rider Kate McIlroy and finish in second place. So there'll be a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes while Grace Brown just sits back in her armchair and gets taken to the line by her team.
Yeah, you look to see her just policing the early breakaways and the attacks. With these wide roads here, you can really see what's happening in the peloton, and she can just sit back and keep an eye on everyone in the peloton.
Oh, with a figure-8 style course, lots of corners, but yeah, they're so wide. This is certainly, in terms of technical nature, well, non-existent really.
Yeah, that's right. When you look at the stage, the course mocker, it looks like it could be really technical, but yeah, like you say, with the roads being slightly more wider and easier to negotiate here.
Now this is the last corner, so we can see the banner at the end there, the finish line. So that's probably, obviously, as always in Criterium, the most crucial part on that final lap, being in the right position. Slightly uphill as well, up to the finish line, but it is a short straight. So anyone that wants to try and win the Criteriums today really needs to make sure they're in the best possible position coming into that final corner. Ones to look out for today, I think I've highlighted on my start sheet, Robbie. Hard to go past a rider like Georgia Baker, the 23-year-old from Tasmania. She's been very good in the Criteriums in the National Road Series in the past couple of years, and a specialist track rider. So she's my tip, perhaps, to go for it. We saw Georgia Whitehouse have a mechanical issue on stage 2, but she's been very prominent in the intermediate sprints on the road stages, so showing that she's got good form as well. And I'll throw in Brianna Hargrave, the South Australian, as another one, former track sprinter that's now an endurance rider. Anyone else, or who do you think?
Yeah, like I think you've covered a lot of those the good riders there. I think that being the girls with the track background will obviously be more suited to the Criteriums with the anaerobic type efforts, and just with a short finish straight from the last corner there. I think it really suits those girls that you mentioned.
Track background, we saw that in the early years, the development years, that took Geraint Thomas to 2 Olympic gold medals in the team pursuit, and then overnight finishing up there in the time trial to secure the overall victory in the Tour de France. Quite an emotional win for Geraint Thomas and everybody that knows him and his background. So fantastic to see an old trackie get up, or was it the second time now? Bradley Wiggins a couple of years ago, 2012, and now Geraint Thomas, 2 ex-trackies getting up to win the Tour de France. Might be the resurgence of track cycling, get a few more kids out there riding track.
Yeah, it could be. It's yeah, like you say, it's good to see Geraint win. He's always been a loyal supporter and teammate to Chris Froome, who's won so many Grand Tours now. It's good to see someone else win.
Might even get you to dust off a track bike, Robbie. Former mountain biker, but we've got to get you on the track maybe and have a go.
I have done a few circles before on the track bike, but yeah, it's not really for me.
So I'm Scott McGrory in commentary, if you didn't get the start, sitting beside Robbie McEwen. Oh, Robbie McEwen.
I wish, yeah, I wish.
Robbie Hucker, sorry. Sitting beside Robbie Hucker here in commentary. And Robbie does have a mountain bike background, former under-23 Australian mountain bike champion. Can you just remind me who finished second the year you won the under-23 title?
Jack Haig.
Jack Haig,
yes.
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
He goes all right.
He does, yeah, yes.
How often do you remind Jack Haig? Is it so? After he won his first World Tour race last year, which was the stage of the Tour of Poland, did you remind him that you beat him in the mountain bike?
Yeah, I've got to subtly bring up hints about my mountain biking, and then I can drop that one on him. Yeah.
Looks like he's on his way though, isn't it, Jack Haig? Doing very well in the last 18 months, perhaps 2 seasons. He really has developed extraordinarily well to go to the next level. So we'll keep an eye on where Jack goes in the near future. For now, though, it's stage 4 of the Battle Recharge, and it's the first of the 2 Criteriums today. We've got the women for now, and then later up this afternoon be the final stage for the men. Aidan Tuvey in a commanding position in the men's overall classification, as is Grace Brown, 1 minute and 18 seconds ahead of Kate McIlroy here in the women's race. It's one of the riders struggling a little bit at the back of the field, trying to get herself back up there. So technically not a difficult course, but she does seem to be struggling a little bit just through the tighter sections. Should give us a good opportunity with the wideness of the road here for the motorbike to really get up and get in amongst it, the peloton. It's always a bit of a danger covering the criteriums in the NRS, just the access for the motorbikes, it's really hard to get close to the riders, and too dangerous if you do. The peloton goes so much faster through the tight corners than a motorbike with 2 people on it. So on this course today, we should have a good opportunity considering how wide the roads are. "16 laps to go," we just saw as they came past. 20 laps at the start, 28 kilometres. Fairly short criterium, but we've had 2 long road stages and a short 9-kilometre time trial, so a lot to sort the riders out for the overall classification until this point, and finishing off with a nice short, sharp, fast 28-kilometre criterium for the ladies. 32 kilometres for the men in store later on this afternoon. Pressure's come on a little bit now as well, so they were bunched up for those first few laps. But at 16 laps to go, or 15 and a half laps to go now, there's a little bit more pressure being put on the front. Looks like the Sydney Uni Staminade team gone to the front now to try and mix things up, and that really has strung the peloton out. Normally in a criterium, Robbie, really sharp, short, technical course, you need to be at the front all the time if you want to stay in contention for the finish. But a big free-flowing course like this, is it as crucial where you really sit in the field?
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, it's crucial to be in a good position. Probably no further back than say 15th wheel. But on a circuit like this, you can see it's a little bit more open and not having to get on the brakes hard into each corner. But you can see here now that the pressure's been on for probably 2 laps now, and you can see some of the girls really finding it hard. The further back in the peloton you sit, obviously, it's making much more of an effort than the girls at the front.
Well, it does look like they're coming up to one of the first of the 2 intermediate sprints. It was Georgia Baker that flicked round the corner first position, riding for the Tasmanian Institute of Sport team. And she is my pre-race favourite to go for it. So St Luke's Health have come on as sponsors of the TIS, so great to see them involved. 15 laps to go now for the ladies, and it did appear that Georgia Baker took out that first intermediate sprint. 3-second time bonus, which won't really matter to her. She's a fair way down, 5 minutes and 47 seconds behind in the overall classification. But the sprint classification, she sits in 2nd place behind Georgia Whitehouse. Whitehouse on 11 points, Georgia Baker on 7. She picked up 3 just then, so that'll take her up to 10. And depending exactly where Whitehouse finished in that, she might be able to get the better in the overall sprint competition. 2 more sprints to come, and the points on the final sprint as well.
Yeah, with her not being on GC, I think that'll be their big objective of today's criterium, to really target that sprint classification and also the finish lines overall.
After the sprint's always the best opportunity to go on the attack, so we'll be eagerly awaiting the first major attack to come. Bunched up until they strung out for that first sprint, and it looks as if the pace has gone off slightly. Looking for the yellow jersey of Grace Brown. 1 minute 18 second lead over Kate McIlroy. So the Holden Team Gusto rider, there she is. Hard to pick up the colours though with the picture the way it is, but there's Grace Brown right there in the centre of the screen. Looks like she's wearing the young rider's white jersey, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Sitting in a good position in the peloton there. She can see everyone that's going to attack or anyone that's moving up. She can now put herself in a better position in the peloton and keep herself safe.
Another lap completed. Georgia Baker picking up the first of the intermediate sprints and the bonuses that were on offer. And the interview she gave after stage 2, Robbie, I'm not sure if you saw it, but she gave an interview to Amy McCann, the media manager for Cycling Australia. And the question was, you had teething problems in the stage. And Georgia laughed and said, yes, I'm going up one of the hills, my teeth fell out. And she had to stop and go back and get them. And sounds crazy, but she had a very nasty accident a couple of years ago where she lost 5 teeth, and she now wears a plate with the replacement teeth until they get screwed back in. They're going to be drilling them into the jaw. And she said when she talks too much out riding or goes a bit too hard, sometimes that plate falls out. And you can't just leave your 5 teeth on the road. You don't want a car to run over it. So she had to clip out, turn around and go back down the hill and pick up her teeth. And she's back in the race now and already picked up the first sprint.
Yeah, it's not a bad effort, is it?
Can you imagine the desperation when your 5 teeth fall out and the convoy of cars is coming from behind and you're just trying to stop everybody from running over your broken teeth or to break your teeth? To Alita Grace Brown, the former runner, transitioned from athletics a couple of years ago, won a couple of stages of the National Road Series last year, and well on her way to picking up another one, the first one of 2018. Now, first attack is underway. Good news for her as well, as she going off the front, was the bunch itself was bunched up a little bit. So the pace had gone off, creating a good opportunity for a rider to really get off the front here and try and open up a gap. 13 laps to go. MV Otto, Canberrian, riding for the Team CCS Canberra squad. So we've had one sprint, and this is now the first attack, first real move. Quite a significant one as well, looking over the shoulder. Didn't really hug the corner there though. The peloton's already closed it down. The Stan Brims Criterium course here in Murwillumbah, Industrial Estate, figure 8 style circuit. This is the roundabout that joins the 2 square ends of the course. So it's also the pits for the race as well. Perfect spot. A lot like the mountain bike races now, aren't they? They don't go out in big loops anymore. They go out on multiple loops so they can come back to the technical zone and the service area so many more often.
Yeah, it makes it a bit more convenient for the mechanics and stuff. If anyone has a mechanical, they can slot back into the middle of the course there and then get going again.
Anna Booth sitting on the front. So Sydney Uni Staminade squad. She was the rider that gave up her bike and her shoes to Georgia Whitehouse on stage 2 when Whitehouse had a gear issue. I think it was the battery running flat on her electronic gears. So switched bikes, realised that the pedals were different and had to swap with Anna's shoes as well. 12 laps to go now for the elite women. Stage 4, the final stage of the Battle Recharge. First round for the ladies at the National Road Series for 2018. Perfect weather over the last 3 days. Bitterly cold in other parts of Australia, but it's beautiful throughout the Tweed Valley. We're in Murwillumbah, just south of the Gold Coast. Regular training roads all through here for any of the riders that live in southeastern Queensland. And Robbie McEwen, got to mention before, but this is definitely one of the areas he used to train a lot when he was a professional. Does look as if Team CCS Canberra off the front again. Is it Viotto once more having another go? First effort didn't work. Try and give it another one.
She's picking the right moments if it is her again. When the peloton, you can just see here bunching up and easing off the pedals a bit. It's the perfect time to go and attack, get the biggest advantage you can, and then try and hold on to it. Unfortunate that no one else has gone on the attack with her to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, really difficult, isn't it, for an individual rider to try and hold off an entire peloton. Do need a couple of willing participants to get out there in front as well. So Madison Taylor was the rider sitting right at the back of the bunch, just struggling to hold on for now, or poised to go on the attack later perhaps. But the gap is really starting to open up now. Significant move here. Ayla Rudgley it is. So it is Team CCS Canberra, but it's Viotto's teammate. So there are 4 riders here for Team CCS Canberra, and they've got a clear objective. Just get out there and have a go.
Yeah, great to see, isn't it? Good. They've obviously got the same tactic throughout the team. I'm not sure if they've got a sprinter in that team or not, but they're looking to make the race as hard as possible.
4 riders for Team CCS. Alison Rice, the rider that's on screen off the front at the moment, Ayla Rudgley, and Lauren Thomas, and Emma Viotto, who we saw off the front just before. So Rudgley from New South Wales, the other 3 riders representing the ACT, the Canberrian team. Good gutsy effort. Good to see the team with the tactic. Get out there and really just go for it. If you haven't got a sprinter in the team, you've only got one objective. Go out there and really try and make it hard and see if you can get away. Yeah,
that's right. And with her teammate Viotto attacking earlier in the race, it just puts a lot of pressure on everyone else in the peloton, and then it sets her teammate up, Rudgley, here to go on the attack.
Still tough to do it on your own, though, when you get a few teammates sitting behind. No danger in the overall classification. So a long way down in the overall class. So Grace Brown and the Holden Gusto team don't need to panic to close this down. But the riders that certainly are looking at sprinting for victory later will certainly need to do something. Georgia Baker, as I said before, I think is perhaps the favourite to go for the stage win. But she only has 2 teammates here. So St Luke's Health Racing TIS team with Georgia Baker, Anya Lowe and Lauren Perry. So it's a tough ask for Georgia's teammates to come to the front and chase it down and then do the lead out at the end.
That's right, but you can see here now it's all being brought back together.
It's coming through for another intermediate sprint, and it was Baker flying through the finish line as well. So they see how quickly it all came back together. The gap was quite significant, and then a big effort from the peloton going for that intermediate, and it just comes back so quickly. At the first intermediate, Georgia Whitehouse picked up 2nd place, and she's the sprint classification leader. She was on 11, picked up 2 points, finishing behind Baker, who won it. So she went to 13. Baker went up to 10. So still 3 points separating Whitehouse and Baker. That's in the overall sprint classification. 1 more sprint remaining for the intermediates before they have the final sprint at the end. Time bonuses as well, but both those riders, doesn't really matter. They're a fair way down in the overall classification, well over 3 minutes behind both Whitehouse and Baker. We mentioned track cycling at the start of the Criterium as well, and it's perhaps the discipline of cycling that would benefit this situation the best. Criteriums and track is very similar, and the track riders, like a Georgia Baker, really does have the skills to negotiate a peloton to make sure she's in the right position to go for victory.
Yeah, that's right. Skills in the peloton and also bike handling skills as well. With it being a criterium and so many corners, she can really benefit from her background in other disciplines of the sport.
Just a slide uphill out of that final corner, a kick to the line, but it's a short straight as well, so you really be challenged if you're any further back than 3 wheels perhaps. So there's 9 laps to go. I think it had 90 up there with a hand over the 0, was that right? Is that what I saw?
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Technical problems at the finish line. 9 laps to go for the ladies. They started with 20, so just over halfway now. 1.4 kilometre circuit they have here. 20 laps equals 28 kilometres. And the pace now just going off again.
You'll generally see this in a criterium. With about halfway, you'll have a bit of a lull in the pace where everyone tries to get their breath back and get any type of recovery they can before the last half of the race.
Now, we're talking about pre-race favourites. I've picked George Baker, but Mitchell Vervaert has reminded us that Nat Redmond won the bunch kick on stage 1, powerful cyclocross rider, and on the podium at the Tour of King Valley previously. So there's another one to look out for, Nat Redmond. And look, talking about skills, yeah, track, well, cyclocross. Hey, how skillful are the cyclocross riders? So Nat certainly knows how to get herself in, through and around a peloton. So Natalie Redmond, Mitchell's tip perhaps to go for the final stage victory, but she rides for the Holden Team Gusto squad. Grace Brown's the overall leader, comfortable lead at 1:18. So the thing perhaps, apart from just defending Grace's lead, which is a given, it's almost impossible barring an incident that Grace Brown's not going to take out the Tour overall. So then they can put all their focus on trying to pick up the final sprint and final stage as well with Natalie Redmond perhaps.
Yeah, they can go with a two-prong objective for the last stage here, and they're not Holden Team Gusto really haven't had to do any work on the front here. As you can see, it's just more about the attacking and the flow of the peloton that's kept them going.
So slight undulations on the 1.4 kilometre course here in Murwillumbah. Stan Brim's Criterium course in the industrial estate. When they did the race book for the circuit, there was only 2 buildings on this particular course. It looked like the whole thing was open and you could stand in one spot and see the entire course. Obviously they are very fast at building buildings, constructing buildings. All that photo, the aerial photo, was taken some time ago because there's a lot more infrastructure around the course now.
Yeah, and if it was no infrastructure around it and there was quite a bit of wind, it looks like it could be the circuit that the wind could play a very, very big part in the race.
It's always funny, you know, on roads that are so wide, but there's a bit of crosswind. Everyone's down in the gutter, starting echelons. You've got all this wide road, but no, tucked in under the wheel, right in the gutter itself. And then there's the danger of picking up a flat tyre too. You get a puncture when you ride too much, all the dirty stuff that's in the gutters on the edge of the road. So hopefully all of the riders get through unscathed. And unfortunately, the men's, we'll talk about when the men's criterium comes out, but the second place equal time going into the final, the time trial this morning was Ryan Kavanagh, and he had a nasty crash. So he's bummed out of the overall classification. He was feeling confident going for the overall victory, but Aidan Tuvey now comfortably out in the overall lead on his own at the moment, with Ryan Kavanagh crashing in the time trial earlier today. Another attack going now just in the women's race. One rider just off the front. A little bit of a chase going on the front of the main field.
Lots of individual attacks, but no groups, small groups getting away. Lots of strong individuals, but no cooperation with any other teams.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that. Good to see a couple of riders trying to get together. Even and it happens a lot, doesn't it, before the race, maybe, if you know that you've got a team, there's another team that doesn't have. It's one of the South Australian riders, Maeve Plouffe perhaps, or Danny McInnery, one of the trackies from the South Australian Institute of Sport. Holden Team Gusto on the front now trying to close it down, so their objective perhaps is to set up Natalie Redmond. And the Sassy team, certainly some good riders, Brianna Hargrave, Danielle McInnery, Maeve Plouffe and Olivia Wheeler, 4 riders here, and we've got one of them now off the front. And you can see the damage being done. The pace down the peloton as we're getting towards the finish is really starting to cause some problems at the back of the field. Some good motorbike work here. A bit of a squeeze on as well. So there's some desperation going on at the front of the main field. Calls to help her out. at the back of the bunch, help her out. They know what they have to do. They know what they want to do. They know what they're being told to do. They just can't get there to do it.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Knowing what to do, but executing that is a totally different thing.
Got to say, good camera work as well from Dom Farrell and his moto pilot, getting right up in amongst the peloton there. So the intermediate sprint standings as they are at the moment, Georgia Baker equal with Georgia Whitehouse on 13 points. So they just had another sprint then coming through. So, yeah, Georgia Baker and Georgia Whitehouse equal on 13 points in the overall sprint classification. So we'll just wait the confirmation of the final of the intermediates before we have the points that are up for grabs on the stage itself. So Baker taking out the first of the two intermediates. Whitehouse was second in the first one. Emily Roper second in the second. So I picked Baker as a pre-race favourite, but she's really going for these intermediates as well, which costs a lot of energy. That could be to her detriment when we get to that final sprint.
Yeah, obviously she has an objective to go for that the intermediate sprints throughout the Criterium here today, but it could come at a cost if she's, like you say, if she's using too much energy during the race. She obviously feels good because she's going for them, and yeah, we'll wait and see on the final.
The last time I made mention of wasting energy before the finish was at the Commonwealth Games this year, at the men's road race, and Steele von Hoff went on the attack within the last couple of kilometres, just covering a move. And I thought, well, hang on, here's the sprinter for Australia. Don't waste your energy, Steele. Didn't matter. Went on to still win, to claim the gold medal. What an incredible story that was at the Com Games this year after breaking his neck and his back in a crash 7 weeks before the Games. I think another ex-mountain biker, wasn't he? Had a bit of a play in the dirt in the early days.
He did, yeah. Steele was a good mountain biker.
Press release that came through in the last couple of days as well from Cycling Australia, with BMX Australia and MTBA all combining forces once again to discuss the best ways forward for all three organisations. So great to hear that there's some cohesion once again with BMX, mountain bike and the other cycling disciplines. The Tweed Shire Council doing a great job. 6 years running we've had the Battle Recharge, Battle on the Border as it was formerly known, and in collaboration with New South Wales State Government, Visit New South Wales. And it makes sense, it's a fantastic part of Australia to come to. The riding around here is amazing. The bushwalking as well, Mount Warning, challenging climb, both on and off the bike. And this particular tour used to have a stage that went up the road, up Mount Warning. Mark O'Brien won one year up there, and
it's a steep climb. I wish it was in this year's event. I could sit here and watch it and enjoy it much more.
Maeve Plouffe, 2-3, the big South Australian sitting there, poised, waiting for the finish. The pressure has been on. They've just eased off a little bit now. Starting to think. You get to this point of the race in a Criterium when you've gone on a few attacks, but now you know that it's most likely going to come down to a bunch sprint, so you want to sit in and try and rest. It's also a really good opportunity in the last couple of laps to go on the attack again, because people that might normally want to chase you down don't want to waste the energy. Yeah,
that's right. You've seen a number of individual attacks, and then with those attacks not lasting very long, it gives the girls in the peloton a pretty good idea of what will work and what won't. So it looks like now that the sprinters teams will come together and hopefully have a sprint all together.
Holden Team Gusto on the front, just policing everything for their overall leader in Grace Brown. She won the time trial this morning. Absolutely dominated the time trial this morning, it's fair to say. It was only 9 kilometres. It took her 13 minutes and 3 seconds and 33 seconds quicker than Emily Roper. Roper from just up the road on the Gold Coast. And then 36-year-old New Zealander riding for the Specialised Women's team, Kate McIlroy. She was only 3 seconds behind Roper, very close between those two. And then the South African, Brittany Pettersen, Her boyfriend is Brendan Davids, who won the overall tour last year, Battle Recharge. And this time Brittany came away with a stage win yesterday and then 4th in the time trial, 55 seconds slower than Grace Brown. So another name to look out for, a South African living in South Australia, Brittany Pettersen. I've just got confirmation now from the third of the three, the third and final intermediate sprint, and it was a clean sweep for Georgia Baker. She took the first, second and the third. So that'll take her to the overall lead of the points classification, with only the points on the final sprint still to come, but 6, 4, 3 and 2 up for grabs in that final sprint.
She's won all 3 sprints there, Scott. Not only she's won the intermediate sprint jersey, but then she gets a good going for the intermediate sprints. You can see the finish a number of times. She knows when she has to start a sprint or where she has to be in the peloton. So it's not only as she wrapped up the jersey, now she's had a good look at the finish and she knows where she has to be.
Might have been just practice sprints. And by chance won those intermediates by doing her practice sprints, getting ready for the final one. So it's only a couple of laps to go. We'll wait till they come around this next time to see exactly. I think it's 3 laps to go, possibly. But we're in the closing couple of laps now for the women. The elite women, stage 4, the final stage of the Battle Recharge. The opening round of Cycling Australia's National Road Series for 2018. Georgia Baker has been dominant in the intermediate sprint so far. Pre-race favourite for this stage coming in. Long way down in the overall classification though, the Tasmanian. 5 minutes 47 seconds in 16th place, but it's all about stage honours for her. Sydney Uni Staminade team, prominent on the front as well. They have Georgia Whitehouse in their squad. She was in the mix along in the road stages for the intermediate sprints. Two laps to go. Here we go, 2 laps to go. So the fight starts for the riders looking to get in the right position for that final kick out of the last corner, Robbie. Did you like this? Is this the part of Criterium racing that you enjoyed or not? You know, this fight, elbows out kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't mind a bit of argy-bargy and the tight racing. 2 laps to go. I'll probably realise now that my chance of winning the Criterium's over, because I was never as fast as the sprinters, but I would have liked to have had a go earlier in the race and animate it as much as I can. But now you'll probably see the sprinters teams working together. With 2 laps to go, it's not so hard to control the race now, and such a free-flowing course, and it makes it a little bit easier as well.
Well, we have so many fast, free-flowing Criterium courses in the Australian calendar, don't we? We don't often have the really difficult ones, hills, and in Europe often there's cobblestones plus climbs. Most of the Criteriums when I was racing in Germany finished from breakaway groups. There were very rarely actual bunch sprints. 80 to 100 kilometre Criteriums, cobbles, hills, sometimes short circuits, really challenging, and bunch sprints were few and far between. Often it was actual groups lapping the field that were coming away with the wins. Yeah,
that's right. Some of the hardest races I've done have been Criteriums.
Well, they'll be hearing the bell. 1 lap to go the next time they come through the start-finish line. And you can see the spreading out of the peloton as they approach the final corner. They'll hear the bell when they come through. It is the Tasmanians on the front trying to set up Georgia Baker. Anya Lowe, the youngster, she's only 17, an under-19 rider. And there it is, 1 lap to go. Spread right across the road now. The final fight to find the right position to go for victory. Anya Lowe from the St Luke's Health Racing Team, young Tasmanian. She's the under-19 time trial champion for the Oceanas. And she's from Devonport, the youngster Anya Lowe. She is a star of the future. Still an under-19, but on the front of the elite women's peloton here, trying to put Lauren Perry into the right position to lead out her teammate Georgia Baker. Only 3 of the Tasmanian team here, but doing a great job to try and set up Georgia Baker. Holden Team Gusto also in the mix now. South Australian Institute of Sport coming through also. That's Maeve Plouffe on the left-hand side, the red shorts. Natalie Redmond, she's the sprinter for the Holden Team Gusto, the race leader Grace Brown's squad. Hearing that she may be in the mix as well. Georgia Baker's another one. Brianna Hargrave from the South Australian Institute of Sport. Georgia Whitehouse from Sydney Uni Staminade. These are the riders we know have fast finishes that will be putting themselves in the mix to try and pick up this final stage win. Two more corners remaining. Right-hander coming up, and then that final left-hander uphill sprint. Peloton strung right out now. All the teammates trying to put their sprinters in the best possible position. Here it is, the final turn. 200 metres to go. Georgia Baker has been dominant in the intermediate sprints. She's again on the front of the peloton round the final corner. It's a short sprint. Ryder coming over the top though. Baker's in the mix. Is it Georgia Baker? Absolutely dominant performance. 1-2 for the Tasmanians. Lauren Perry comes across in second position, but Georgia Baker, she won the 3 intermediate sprints and the stage as well. Selfish performance from Georgia Baker to win all the sprints today, and to have Lauren Perry come across the line in second place as well. What a great performance it was. The team performance, only 3 riders here, but St Luke's Health Racing Team put in a fantastic ride to come away with a 1-2.
Yeah, she's won all 3 sprints and the stage. That's great to see.
Emily Roper, it may have been, that came across for third. So she was sitting in third in the overall classification, but the time gap, it was only 5 seconds between her and Kate McIlroy, so it won't be enough to get herself up into second in the overall class. But there's Georgia Baker, whose teeth were left on the road yesterday. She had to go back and pick them up after a nasty accident from a couple of years ago. They certainly did stay in. So great on the motorbike interview there from Dom Farrell, our cameraman, with the stage winner Georgia Baker. She kept her teeth in her head and was focused on victory, winning all of the sprints on offer today, including the stage win. So brilliant performance from Georgia Baker. Lauren Perry, her teammate from St Luke's Health Racing Team, the Tasmanian Institute of Sport squad, came away with second place as well. And we've got Emily Roper picks up third on the stage. But that does mean that Grace Brown comfortably takes out the first round of the National Road Series, the Battle Recharge Tour overall. So Grace Brown coming away with a 1-minute 18-second victory overall from Kate McIlroy from the Specialised Women's Racing Team. So great performance from Grace Brown. It was expected, I must say, going in. You never know with racing, but she was the favourite coming in. She's just come straight back from the European program, 21st in La Course by Tour de France only a week and a half ago. So brilliant ride by Grace Brown, but not unexpected.
No, that's right. With only 3 teammates in the race as well, it makes it certainly a lot harder.
We might have an opportunity now to have our second interview with Georgia Baker, the stage winner. So fantastic to hear from her, and what a great team performance. They came in with 3 and they rode like they were.
TAS is one of the smallest teams here, but you paid off today. How's it feeling?
Yeah, really good. It's so good to finish off this tour with a win. We've all worked really hard this week, and it was really good team effort out there today.
First question we have to ask you, you've obviously kept your teeth in.
Yes, today I kept them in with no dramas with the teeth today, so finished on an even better note.
Just take us through the race out there. It was pretty casual, couple of bit of a breakaway there at the middle, and then obviously you were digging in most of the sprints there.
Yeah, look, I was only 4 points off the sprint jersey, so that was also another goal of our team today, to come out and hopefully just chip away and try and get the sprint jersey. I'm not sure if I got it or not yet, hopefully I did. But obviously our main goal was the overall win of the Brit today. The race, wasn't too aggressive. We had a couple of breakaways, but we had Anya on the front just bringing it back, and Lauren there for the finish as well. So we controlled the race really well, and that's how we wanted it to pan out today.
A couple of weeks ago, you were with the Australian cycling team over in Italy on the track. Now you're on the road having success. Happy with where your form's at right now?
Oh yeah, I suppose. Like, I haven't raced on the road for a few, I haven't had very many road races in the past year or so. So, I think I've got a bit of work to do on the road, but I'm happy where my form's at, crit-wise, and on the track as well. So, yeah, everything's progressively going really well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Certainly a great performance there from Georgia Baker and all three of the Tasmanians in Anya Lowe and Lauren Perry as well. Perry second on the stage, Emily Roper third. So brilliant stage performance. And I'd really like to see the smaller teams, they're obviously a strong team, but only small in numbers, but still have the skills and the dedication and ability to come away with a result like that.
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, it's only three people in the team, three girls in the team. They've done really well to come away with that. Like, criteriums are so hard to control. So Georgia Baker said how well her team worked today, and it certainly shows that with only three in the team.
Absolutely. So congratulations to the Tasmanians and Georgia Baker in particular picking up the final stage, but a bigger congratulations goes out to Team Holden Gusto and their performance with Grace Brown winning the overall classification here at the Battle Recharge, the first round of the National Road Series for Cycling Australia. So brilliant performance from Grace Brown. 1 minute and 18 seconds was the final victory margin to Kate McIlroy from the Specialised Women's team, the 36-year-old New Zealander, and only 1 second further back to Emily Roper. So Roper finishing third on the stage, almost got herself up in second in the overall classification. So the young Queenslander Emily Roper coming away in third place overall. But the biggest congratulations go out to Grace Brown and the Holden Team Gusto. We'll be back very soon though with the men's criterium, so stick around, don't go too far away.